I just have to write a good prompt and then it's going to give me the answer. Who
Whoa.
thinks of stuff like that? When you start asking this kind of question
Hmm?
from a human's perspective, that is where the human-centered AI come in. Let us strive to normalize being human because, I have always considered myself as a very nerdy person from high school, from college.
Hello, 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 everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are watching us from. We are so glad to be here again. If you see me, you've seen mental health. That's what I say. If you see me, you will hear about the mental health topic. And I am just so happy that I'm so passionate about it and everything. I don't care what it is, we can relate it to mental health. Today, we are talking about balancing career, family, and mental health. A researcher's perspective. We have a researcher here. The modern era brings unique challenges for individuals striving to excel in career, and again, at the same time, maintaining fulfilling family relationships and safeguard their mental health. Researchers often navigate these demands in high pressure environments, making balance, we all need balance, right? Making that balance a critical issue. So we have Mikel here. Mikel, please welcome. I am super happy and honored to have you. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi, Dr. Mercy. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks so much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here. So, a little bit about me. So, my name is Mikel Ngueajio. I am a fourth-year PhD student in computer science at Howard University. I am a mom to four amazing kids. I am a researcher. From the title of this talk today, I am a researcher in mostly natural language processing, which is the AI for studying languages and understanding how to teach machines to understand and then to talk to us. That's also some of, in a nutshell, what NLP is. Mm, I am a wife, I am a friend, I am a sister, I am a mother, like I said, and yeah, I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you so much. I always get excited teaching machines to do what we normally do because there are still some areas where I feel like machines cannot be effective. Maybe you would disprove me, but there are still many areas, especially being in the healthcare field, where I strongly believe that machines cannot be effective. But anyway, let's dive into this. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey? What inspired you to pursue a PhD in NLP at Howard University? Congratulations. Howard University is not easy anyway. So,
Yeah, it's
congratulations.
the Mecca.
Yes. Yes.
It's called the Mecca for a reason.
Mhm.
So a little bit about my journey. I have always considered myself as a very nerdy person from high school, from college. I had always excelled in fields where generally you would not see a lot of people, like a lot of women excel. For example, I was always kind of top of my class in math. When I did my GCE advanced level, I took double math, further math, and I took math, and I excelled in both. So when it came time to choose what to do in the university, I went with my parents' choice. My parents were so adamant, you are going to be my doctor. You are going to be a biologist, a doctor, a medical doctor.
Yeah.
But when I arrived not at orientation, but when it came time to fill that form, I thought to myself, is that really what you want to do? Is that really, are you really good at that?
Right.
But
You may be good at
Well,
it, but is that really what you want to do?
exactly. I'm good at it, but is that really? I was because I was also good in biology. That's what my
Yeah.
parents said. Yeah, you're gonna be my medical doctor. Then, is that really what you want to do? And then I decided, well, I love maths. That's what I'm gonna do. Got back home to my family, to my big family, and then I announced to them that I registered for math. I didn't do it quite immediately until the results came out that I had been selected to continue in the math program. Then I announced to my parents that actually I'm going to the university. I was very young, so I was going to move out of the house, which was a bit scary for the parents. That was the first scare. And then, secondly, I will be doing math. That was like a big
Not
shock.
biology.
Yeah, not biology, because, from what I understand, from what I understood from the conversation with the big family and with everything, is that's not things women do. Women don't do stuff like that.
Right.
Um, that is no. Any respectable woman who aspires to marry someday and who wants to be a respectable wife cannot go into such fields. And I was like, whatever that means, I don't know. So I went to do math, and I promised my parents and I promised the entire family, okay, let's give it a try. I'm good at it. I have 4 years. I'm not gonna repeat a year. I'm not gonna fail. I'm gonna finish in 4 years. And in 4 years, I was among the top of my class to graduate. And that also was that's something I'm very proud of. But then when I got to my master's study, I wanted more. I wanted to know more. I wanted to explore more. What can I do with that math? At the time, there was nothing like data science, or you had either done statistics and probabilities in math, or you hadn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I'm going to go for computer science, because the next best thing closer to math is computer science. So my master's, I went into computer science. And then after my computer science degree, the logical thing, my advisors, she pushed me to, you're good at this. Let's
Yeah.
go for a PhD,
Yeah.
and then keep exploring what we're working on, the impact of this AI in humans, and how we can make these AI systems better for human, more accessible and more responsible. And so why the choice for Howard University? So Howard University, I have always Howard University is a symbol in the US. If you are in the
Yeah.
US, when somebody says Howard University, you feel something. And for me,
Yeah.
I
You should be
wanted to go to
proud.
a place that is motivating, that has history, that has my history, you know, m- the history of, the kind of history that I totally relate to. And
Yes.
it wasn't a hard decision to make. I just went
That's
to Howard University.
that's good. Thank you. What a journey. Exciting. I
Yeah.
I see you said something you were always nerdy. I don't know if at that
Mhm.
time it was considered like it is considered today in my kids class. If you are nerdy, it feels like it's a disadvantage. Like he's a nerd, he's weird, he's a nerd. And I'm like, it's no problem being a nerd. Like a child would
Nope.
deliberately not outperform because he or she
Exactly.
doesn't want to be called a nerd. I'm like, in our days, that is what we promote.
Actually, that was a big, and I think it's maybe still a big problem. I don't know if
It
it's
is.
everywhere else like that,
Mhm.
but in certain places, if you're a math girl, you're expected to be dressed in a certain way. I remember going to an office
Wow, I didn't know that. I haven't heard
to
that.
yes, because they expect you to not be too girly, to not be too a certain way. Because if you
Not be
are
too
that, then I think
cool.
you don't belong. Yeah, you can't be too, how would I say,
You can't be too
upheld? How can I say?
beautiful.
I,
You
I
have
can just say that.
you
Yes,
have
you
to be
have to be in
plain
a certain,
Jane because you're
you
different.
Yes. So that I think that also goes to the direction where you're saying sometimes you try to dive back a little bit just
Mm-hmm.
because if you are your true self, you might distort the norm, which for me doesn't make any sense. I believe that if every course is everything you do, you have to bring your whole body 100% to the party.
You can say that again. How has your background shifted? And I want to applaud you, by the way, for standing your grounds because with
Yep.
our background, it's difficult to tell your parents that I'm not gonna do it. With today, it's very easy. You can tell your kid, I want you to do it. Like, no, mommy, I'm not doing that. But with
Mm,
our background, it was not as easy. It feels like it was a disobedience telling your parents, like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I wanna do, especially when they know you're good at it. Well,
mm,
thank you for standing your grounds and still changing
mm.
the world with what you're doing. But how has your
Yes.
background shaped your approach to balancing career, family, and your mental health?
Yes. So that is actually a great question. A great question. Yes. So I grew up in a home with a present mom and a present dad.
Yeah.
I know in most families, it's like what mom or dad say is true and is gospel, but it wasn't the case for us. Our home had always been like an open conversation. Let's have
Wow.
a conversation. We do not agree, but let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
If we still do not agree and then you're adamant about what you want to do, go ahead and do it. But you have to promise me that after a certain amount of time, if you haven't gotten to that point, you revert back to me. Like I was saying that I
So
told him after 4 years, if I don't get this degree and I am not among the top, I'm still young. I can go back to school and then start a new study. There's no
mm-hmm.
problem in that. So, and that felt, and I believe, I'm confident that just having that confidence of, you know, making your own path and seeing it through is something that has built me to where I am currently. Secondly, the fact that you can easily express what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
express so put it out in such a way that you convince someone that you have to listen to what I'm telling you,
Right.
and this is actually going to work. Be convincing
Mm-hmm.
in what you're saying and how you're going to, and being adamant on the fact that you are going to deliver on
Mm-hmm.
what you are saying. And
Right.
that too has shaped me into the person I am today.
I'm thinking though, balancing that with your mental health, balancing. I've done some research. I'm still doing some pilot studies in research, and
Mhm.
I can see the demands of research. You have intense
Mhm.
deadlines, you have grant
Mhm.
writings, you have publications, you have conference presentations. There's a pressure to stay competitive and relevant in your field, and not
Yes.
only that, strategies for those balance where sometimes you feel like you're not being realistic with your goals or your projects are not easily managed, or even sometimes you're not able to delegate some responsibilities with your research team depending on what role you're playing in that team, or
Mhm.
adopting other times like planners. How do you balance all that with your mental health?
That is actually a very good question, and a question and something that is not often talked about a lot in the research field, especially in this AI
Mm-hmm.
era where things move so fast. Researchers have to adapt so fast. Technologists, they have to there is so in the world we live today in AI, if you're totally invested in the new models that are being built today, your model can be obsolete in a week. Something
Whoa.
was built, yeah. Something was built, you used it to test something, and then the next iteration comes out in a week, or a better benchmark. That's how they call it. The benchmark comes out in a week. What do you do? That in itself takes a toll on your mental health because you had worked so hard on building this. But the next week how do you adapt to something better coming up? Do you start back from scratch, or do you just
Especially
continue
if
with
you look
this?
at some of the sacrifices that he did, not
You
only build, it
exactly,
was a cost. And
exactly.
in less than a week, maybe you're not even fully implemented it, and
No,
part of it is already obsolete.
yes. So there's that constant race with the clock on how to do. But how do you balance it with your mental health? So one way that I have been applying, and I think some people also, because you can keep changing things as things keep moving every week or so. So what happens is that you take the wave as they come and you ride in it. That's how I see it. It comes,
That
it's
comes with a
there,
lot of
it's going to
flexibility,
change.
though.
You have to be very flexible and adaptable.
Hmm.
If it comes and then the next one comes next week, you have to make a choice. Are you tweaking your model? If you're tweaking your model, to what extent do you want to tweak it? Knowing that maybe another one is going to come the week after that.
Hmm.
Or do you stand your ground and stay firm and just keep riding that wave,
Are those
write
your
a
kids
paper about
calling?
it? No, they're playing. They're playing. Yeah.
That's what we are talking about. How do we balance
I
all?
thought
How,
exactly.
yeah,
See?
because you play so many roles in one time.
Uh-huh.
Right now, you're still a
Exactly.
mother, you're a researcher, and you were talking about these. These are
Exactly.
things in
This
life.
is real life.
Yeah,
This
and
is real
sometimes
life.
we can control, sometimes we cannot control
We
what
can't
we need
control
to.
it.
Yeah.
Hmm. So reverting back to what I was saying is it's gonna depend. So now and then but the good part about being a researcher or a PhD student is that you get at the beginning is difficult. You try to think, how am I going to do this? Do I so you there's so many things that go through your head. And that is when you really have to take care of your mental health. But the more this happens to you, the more you're like, this has happened before. So
Before.
I am not going to stress on that. I'm just gonna keep riding my bike. I'm just gonna keep riding the wave, and
Mhm.
then I produce something from it, and then keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you're that kind of stoic person, my way is the best way. No, this
Mm,
had implemented this had to last 1 year before any change. You will not succeed in.
you
But
not
let me ask
survive.
you, what drew you to focus on human-centered AI, and how do you see it impacting the world?
Yes, that is a fantastic question. So let's look at it from, I'm going to go from a US perspective because that is where I have I've had the most growth in AI and everything. So the way that I see most of the AI being done in the US is that the biggest and the best things are always the ones that have been developed. Today you hear ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo has been built, and then 1 month later ChatGPT 4.0, and then 4.0 Mini. The biggest, and then those methods are just fascinating. You look at it and you think, how could they do this? How can they build something so impactful? Now I don't have to go through all this. I just have to write a good prompt and then it's going to give me the answer. Who
Whoa.
thinks of stuff like that? When you start asking this kind of question
Hmm?
from a human's perspective, that is where the human-centered AI come in. Who is building this kind of thing? What do they have in mind? How do they make sure that the thing they are building is good for me? How do I ensure? Oh my goodness, I apologize for that. How do
How
we
does it
ensure
stay relevant?
how do we ensure that this works for human?
Right.
Because everything they build is for human at some point.
Mm-hmm.
How does it impact the human? How does it make a human's life, a person's life better?
Better. Mm-hmm.
Or how does it discriminate? We look at the good, we look at the bad, and how does it impact. In each direction we go, either good or bad, impacts the world in a certain way.
Right.
My research looks at hate speech and fake news, but from a natural language perspective. I try to understand what is it about fake news that pushes people to do certain kind of hate, either online or offline.
Mm-hmm.
That has implications in the world. Just recently, with what happened in the UK, it was a fake stuff that was circulating on social media that
Mm-hmm.
resulted in the huge riot that we saw in the UK.
Right.
And there's so many other examples.
Big
The
impact.
US Capitol riots. There is the COVID, the Asian hate crime during COVID. It
Mm-hmm.
was just from this constant
Yep.
fake news that kept inciting hate on people and pushing them to act on that hate to either online or offline. And that impacts the world because it impacts the world because if we have that, if we do not, that's something that if we are not able to control, it may have some ramifications like the
Mm-hmm.
riot, like people, there have been some wars over some fake things that happened, and that led to people getting upset about certain things that wasn't even true. So that
Absolutely.
is, yeah.
Absolutely. Let me acknowledge some of our audience
Mhm.
for Red, Evelyn, Rebecca. Thank you all who will answer some questions if we can. Alexander, thank you all for joining us. Let us continue. If you have some specific questions, please do ask them. We'll answer as we go if we have time. Coming back to you as a
Mhm.
researcher, how do you recognize when your mental health needs attention and what steps do you take to address those?
I think so. When you are just starting in as a researcher, sometimes it might be difficult for you to notice because you just want to do so much. You just want to keep hitting those high waves over and over
About
and over again.
deadlines are real.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
And you have this, and then so it's not even to talk about the deadlines. There are the deadlines, there are the papers that you submit, there are those
Yeah.
that got rejected and that you have to adjust and then resubmit them, and then there is the grant proposal you have to write because the papers are not going to get published by you have to pay some money. The research is not going to get done by itself. You have to get some money from people, recruit people to help you work on
And
that, so you
most
have
of
a
the time,
team to
that's not
manage.
everything you're doing. You're
So
still a
there's
mom, you're still a wife, you're still a daughter, you're still a
and
friend,
listen,
a
so
sibling.
there are so many things that can go wrong during a research process. And at every step of the way, it could be from getting the money or getting recruiting the right people or a paper getting rejected. What do we do about that? How can we balance this paper with this one to make sure that we have the paper length is good, the structure is good. So everything can go wrong at every different time. But the smart researcher recognize things before they happen. The smart, and maybe I would say the most experienced researcher, they recognize when things are going to get bad and they try to mitigate that earlier. So one simple way that I would just say is, rather than have your paper ready a month, let's say the day or the D date of the deadline. How about you get your paper ready 2 weeks before?
Or if you can,
While you send it out for proofreading, you
mhm,
are thinking about how to improve it. At least somebody is proofreading it. And then once while they are doing that, you can improve it little by little so that everybody is doing the work. Then the work is not concentrated on you, and the amount of stress is a little bit dissipated because at this point you are thinking about the next step, why the paper is already out for other people to review and give you feedback.
And you're not
That
caught
is
with that feeling of overwhelmingness last
overwhelmed.
time.
No.
Right. And maybe you wait the
No.
deadline and do it, then it gets rejected, or you get a grade that you don't want, or
Exactly.
that was not
Exactly.
what you expected, and maybe you have to redo it, but then it is not aligning because you already have other things to be doing again. So,
Exactly.
so for you though, for you,
Mhm.
have you found something like mindfulness or stress management practices? Like how do you stay grounded when you're able to recognize that okay, my mental health needs to be addressed? How do you stay grounded? How do you
Mhm.
address that?
So these are really good questions, and these are things that you would not hear. I already said that you would not hear a lot in the researcher circle because it's a very close circle. Everybody just doing what they have to do.
They just walk
But
around with a
what
cup of
I
coffee doing their best. Like,
yeah,
let me take a cup of coffee.
they're just
What are you
there,
doing?
and
What?
then they sit on the computers, and then they start grinding until they go home. But the advantage also, it's another good thing is recognizing the advantages of where you are in your research life. For
Mm-hmm.
example, me currently, I am not I am not in my institution. I am a little bit far away, so I work from home. I do my research mostly from home. There are advantages and the disadvantages to doing that, but I prefer to focus on the advantages.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I have worked to make those disadvantages work for me, like you're at home, so they can make this. The kids can make this amount of noise. They can just barge into the room and tell you they need some chocolate milk or something. That for me, every time it happens, it's a way. It's true. It might break down the thought process that you were having, but it's also a way for you to distress, take your mind out of it for a moment, and then you come back.
And
The
think about what you
once you look at it
hmm?
exactly, once you look at it from that perspective, and you don't look at it from the perspective, oh my God, they just crashed my thought process and everything. You are at least it's a stress management. You see things in a positive way, the way they come to you.
I think
Um,
if I could say that in another
yeah.
way, it's that
Hmm.
you wear that perspective that I
Hmm.
get to work and take care of my kids at the same time. It
Yeah.
can be so grounding because you're doing something that you love to do, and you're doing
Hmm.
something again that you hold so much value to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they help distress you when things get intense. When
Mm-hmm.
things start getting intense, the simple fact that they come
Mary
in,
Nanny Rwanda.
sorry about that. They come in and then they need something and then maybe you have to move out. That takes a little bit of the stress out of the whole thing. When you come back, you're a little more refreshed and then you can start back from scratch.
Yeah.
Because there's this little anecdote that I like to to say. To lumber, they cut the tree at the same time every day. They come in at the specific time and then they leave at the specific time. They have the same machete, they have the same axe, but every day one of them leaves at the specific in the afternoon, just gets lost for about 30 minutes and then come back.
Come back.
And then we realize, and then the other one realizes that, but every time you leave, I keep working, but you are cutting more wood than me. How can you do that? Why do you do that? Imagine
And
what he
you took
says.
a
He says
break. You took
he
a
takes a
break.
break, he
I did
takes a
not.
break,
But you're
and
still
you don't.
producing. You're still being
But
more
he's more
productive than
productive
me.
than you. Guess what happens? Every time he takes a break,
I
he
like that.
goes and sharpens his axe. He sharpens the axe and makes it more,
I
sharper
like
so that whenever
that.
he comes, he chops it faster.
I
And that's
like
it.
that.
That's how the brain operates. That's how your body, your brain, your mental health is. You can use it to chop things every day, but until you
Thank you
go
so
back,
much for
take
sharing
some
that.
time
Mhm.
and sharpen that knife or sharpen that axe,
Mhm.
you will go faster. And that's how I see. balancing life. And then that's how I see it. Every time I move away, I step away from this, I am going to sharpen my mental, I'm going to sharpen my brain, I'm going to sharpen my thought process, I'm going to sharpen everything so that
Yeah.
when I come back, everything is reset and I can move faster.
That is the
That's
word,
how I see
reset. That is the word, reset.
it.
You're resetting it from being stressed, you're resetting it from being overwhelmed. You're
Mm,
building resilience as you're resetting it. Your stamina is
mm-hmm.
sharpened, and
Exactly.
and be like, okay, what is it we are doing? And you just handle it. Meanwhile, that other
Yes.
person without a break is still operating from that space
Mm-hmm.
of stress, from that space of
Exactly.
doubt, from that space of
Mm,
tiredness,
mm-hmm.
has not taken a break to sharpen their.
No,
Oh, thank you so
exactly.
much for sharing. What advice would you give researchers struggling with imposter syndrome or academic pressures? Because the pressure is real. The pressure
Mm,
is real. It's not just the pressure that you put on yourself, but it is also the expectation. Because when you're doing research, even though you are researching something that you're looking for an outcome, the expectation is still there. Either it is this or this. You have to prove that my research, this is what has happened. What advice would you give other researchers? They have like long hours in the lab or office, or time spent with people outside doing the research. When they actually go
yeah,
out to the field, sometimes they have that emotional detachment or burnout, which is just peeling, because sometimes one place suffer. Either the family is
yeah,
suffering, or the research
exactly.
is suffering, or personally they are suffering. They cannot even.
Mm.
What advice would you give them with all these pressures, including imposter syndrome?
So that's something, it happens to it happens to the best of us. It happens to everyone. I remember once sitting, I remember there is this, I like to listen to motivational talks and to tech talks because that's something that helps build my experience sometimes.
Mhm.
And I was listening to this speech from President Obama, and then he was saying, well, when you get to the highest office in the land, you get there, you realize that some of these people are not as smart as you think that they were. You look at, then you listen to what they're saying, and then you realize that, oh my goodness, they are not. That is what imposters. That is so. That is sometimes you just feel like I am not as good as that, but compared to who? That is the imposter syndrome talking. And
Yeah.
then, so my advice and what I, imposter syndrome is there. People suffer with it. Everybody at some point has some level of imposter syndrome that they have to deal with. It depends. It could be you're starting a new research,
Right.
you're using, even if you're already well vested in that research,
Mm-hmm.
you are using a different model that you're not very familiar with. You used something last week, and then this week something dropped, and something new dropped.
Mm-hmm.
That there is an imposter syndrome there. So there is always going to be an imposter syndrome. But what do you do about that? The best thing you can do is recognize when you are under pressure, and then and then make sure that um, make sure that you always have to be your confidence, because imposter syndrome comes in, like, I believe that. So most of the time where I have had imposter syndrome is when I wasn't confident in my ability to do something. But when you listen to what President Obama said in that TED talk, he was like, nobody knows exactly what is going on. Everybody is always still trying to figure things out as they go.
Yeah.
Once you have that in your mind, once you have that in the back of your head, you realize and you know that it's going to be okay. I just have to put my best foot forward, one
Forward.
step at a time. Yes, one step at a time, and make sure that if I put one step in front, it is my best foot forward. And
Yes.
that's how you keep moving. But you have to keep putting one step forward. That's how you move.
Yeah.
So, um,
Most of the time, we it is not even the outside pressure. We get internally too self-critical.
yeah, exactly.
Have no compassion for ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
it can lead to us even doubting our own ability. And when you start doubting yourself, you don't put forth your best. It is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
To be so negative about yourself, then doing so positively out there. It's difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
we cut ourselves some slack and
Yeah.
best, put the best
Yeah.
out there, and knowing
Exactly.
that your best may not be the best for someone else. Knowing that there is always room for growth. Give yourself a
Exactly.
pat in the back and say, hey, I did this yesterday.
Exactly.
Maybe today I can outperform that. Maybe not. But give yourself
Mm-hmm.
room and a space for growth. That it is a journey. We are going through it. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to have learned something. I'm going to use what I learned yesterday.
Yeah.
It may not just be the outside pressure, it may just be you caging and putting yourself in the prison, thinking that your outcome will always be 100%. It is not
Exactly.
all the time. It is not
Mm-hmm.
so all the time. Talking about family and balance, what role does your family play in supporting your career and how
Give me a moment. I'm gonna have to move for a bit. I think my baby needs me. Apologize.
find ourselves in different roles that we have to divide ourselves? Maybe give 30% here, 40% here, 50% here. But again, we want to give the best of ourselves in each role. Is it possible? Is it humanly possible that you're playing 4 roles, 5 roles, and at each level in that role, you give the best in yourself? I would say that we want to stay connected within ourselves. The first thing, develop that self awareness to stay connected within yourself. Prioritize your quality over your quantity in every aspect. Am I spending quality time with my family? Am I spending quality time with my friends? When I am at work, am I giving it the quality that it deserves? That way, I am not carrying work to the house and I am not carrying the house to work. And am I able to be seen in each role that I am playing? You want to dedicate time most often. That, okay, kids, this week, this is time for you, and this is time for work, and this is time for myself. We always negate ourselves in the process. We always do that. We don't even put ourselves in the calendar. It's like we do not matter. We give 100% out there and nothing to ourselves. I want us to remember that each time, don't plan for self care. I mean, plan, make time for self care. It means that you're planning not to care for yourself because it starts with you. No one else can care for you the way you know how to care for yourself. And it can be challenging, it can be a mess, it can be chaos. Try to have open communication about work challenges, about family, so that you're fostering a system of understanding and support. It may be among your co-workers, it may be among your peers, it may be among your family members, but you have that support system that you are catering, that I am not the rock that you guys think. I have these
Mm-hmm.
challenges. Together, how can we fix the challenges? People may see you as you are 100% all the time. There is no such thing. Even when we say, "Oh, I have to be perfect," there is no such thing. I have to improve. I know that. I have to grow. I know that. I have to transition from less to more. I know that. And even when I get to more or most, there are still some things that I can let go and incorporate some new things. But to say I have to be perfect, that is just a lot of pressure, not only on my body, but on my mindset as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactly.
the expectation may not be the outcome, and that will just lead to burnout. burn out. And
Exactly.
coming back to you, you see, you had to take some time. I like this
Yep.
because this is just the reality of what we are talking about. You
This
may
is the
be at home,
reality of
yeah, you may be
women
at home, you may be at
researchers.
home,
Exactly.
you leave home, you go to work. You may leave
Yeah.
work and come home. You may leave home and go out with friends. But sometimes you are one person in those roles at the same
You're the
time.
one
And
same person.
yeah,
Exactly.
in all those roles at the same time. And that is not easy. People are sending you love. They say you're doing amazing. It is possible with proper planning. Let us, somebody
Exactly.
said, let us learn to set boundaries, especially for our mental health. Thank you, Mildred, for that. And keep track of your daily activities, yes, before we find ourselves that we are losing
And
everything.
another thing that I would like to add is let us strive to normalize being human because in certain scenario, it would be unacceptable to be in a meeting and then your baby's crying and then you cannot just go up. You have to sit in the meeting and let your baby cry. S- And I think COVID, and I think that's the one I would say the one good thing that COVID taught us is that we are humans.
We are
We have
human. Yeah.
feelings, we have family. Some of us we work with family. Some of the biggest heroes work with their family by their side, and then they
Mhm.
incorporate being caregivers, being moms, being dads, and being excellent professionals at their job.
Being
So
human.
and being human. So we
Mhm.
should normalize being human, especially in research or in high tech fields like AI. The reason why every time I have gone for internship, it has always been difficult to find women, a woman like me, a woman with dreads, a women. It's because there are not a lot of women in those kind of fields. And it's not only because this is very difficult. Coding is like, yeah, this. No, it's also because women, they crave this kind of balancing. How are they going to balance this? How do they make sure that they can balance this work and still get to be the humans that they're supposed to be for their family?
Mhm.
How are they supported by the employers to make sure that they make the conscious decision that, okay, if I'm in a meeting or if I have to go for a conference, do you provide childcare at that conference so that I can bring my baby in?
Right.
That is support from, because not everybody has support from the family.
Not
Some
everybody does.
live in countries where they don't have any soul they know. They have their neighbors, they don't have anyone there.
Mhm.
What happens to that kind of people? They're never going to pursue a tech career just because they can't really be supported by the family. I'm lucky because I've always been supported by my family through WhatsApp, on the phone. I don't have, when I'm in the US, I don't have anybody, I don't have like any direct family
Mhm.
there. But the community, I've learned to grow with the community.
Absolutely.
They understand what I do. They know that I am a researcher. Sometimes I have to travel. And when that happens, I remember during COVID, I woke up one day and then I opened my door and they had packed of pots and pots of food because they understood I'm a PhD student. I was a new mom, and there was COVID, and I was also home with my toddlers. They understood that, and so when we talk about family support, we also have to talk about community support.
Mhm.
For those who don't have any direct family, how does the community support? So that may not be something that is very, very, that's not a big thing. But you just waking up and seeing something like that and thinking that day, okay, I'm not gonna cook. I'm just going to
What
focus on
is
maybe
support?
finishing this paper. I'm just gonna focus on making sure my baby is fine today. I am good. I'm just relaxed. I may just relax and just be watching TV all day, but I'm not cooking, finishing that paper if I have to. That is how, that is what support looks like for me. It could be from community, from the family, from, yeah,
I'm really happy that you said so. Let us normalize being human. And
human.
part of
Yes.
that process is that we should also be able to ask for that support.
Yes.
It is
Very
not
important.
Lord to say, "Oh, I need to step out a little bit from this meeting to go use the restroom." It
It's
is
not a
not
problem.
flawed,
Yeah.
right? Because how, if I'm sitting here holding it, if I'm sitting there holding it, at one
Mhm.
point, I am not even thinking about what you're saying anymore.
Exactly.
I am thinking of how pressed I am. We
Mhm.
are human. And at the same
Yes.
time, again, let us be able to say, no, that is part of being human. This
Exactly.
expectation is too much at this time. I will not be able to render your expectation. No,
Mhm.
it's fine. And it is sad that some careers, they do not see people as humans. They just
Yeah.
see people like robots. Before
Exactly.
you have picked it, before this happened, it's, and they don't care to give you that balance,
Mhm.
especially with family, knowing that if you don't have that balance, you cannot even make it to work. You cannot be at your highest
Mhm.
level of productivity when there is no balance,
No.
especially if there is mental health imbalance. But this leads to my next
Exactly.
question, like, how do you set boundaries between work, family time, especially during
Mhm.
intense periods? You have conferences, you have submissions, your baby is sick, you have this.
Mm.
How do you set boundaries and how do you prioritize?
So that is something that I have built over time because this is something. It's funny, but at some point, every time I had an exam, my kid would be sick. I don't understand this. So every time I would be like, my exam is next week. On Tuesday, my kid would get sick on Saturday. So I was like,
Uh,
why do you always wait for when I have a big deadline for you to be sick or for you to have this big thing? That pushed me and prompted me to find new strategies to adapt to that because you can't predict when a child is going to be sick or not feeling good. It cannot.
mhm,
It may be just something as simple as I want you to carry me. I want you, those little baby tantrums.
mhm.
So being prepared and scheduling, making sure you always have things planned. You write it down. That is what totally saved me. As a person with so many different facade, it's easy to neglect one part and then focus on
Very.
another part.
Mhm.
And but the one thing that has worked for me is planning, putting everything down in writing, and then using pen and paper like a child would do. I would do a correct every time I do a task, and I would do a correct. That has helped me manage even the simplest thing. In my notebook, I have like a few notebooks here. I would even write, go for tennis, stand up and go and walk. When you do this, go take a nap, go cook. August, I just put it down just so I know I am conscious that whatever happens today, I have to throw in a few steps.
Mhm.
Whatever happens today, I'm going to watch this, I don't know, Disney movie or whatever with this person. I have to prioritize this person. For
And
me,
it
that
helps
has
guide your day as well.
exactly,
It helps lay out,
exactly.
gives you a visual layout of your day. And the
Hmm.
brain, there's something about the brain that feels
Hmm.
good. When you check
Yes,
done, the brain
exactly,
feels like it has achieved something,
exactly.
and the brain wants to do that again. And that is a motivating factor to do the next checklist.
The next thing, and you
Uh-huh.
just feel the dopamine. You just want to, okay, I did this, I can still do another one, and then you just want to keep checking.
Mhm.
Because as a researcher and as a coder, you can see, I am, this is something that is true. I have done that before and I did not realize. You
Mhm.
can sit on the code
Mhm.
from 11 p.m. at night till 5 a.m. You are coding. You are seriously coding. When you are in the zone, and as
Mhm.
a researcher, that's the same. When you start a chapter, you can go for hours and hours and hours. So
without even
it's very
realizing.
easy.
Mm-hmm.
You do not realize that. So it's very easy for you to get lost in the job and then just forget everything else. But that checklist, and sometimes when I do the checklist, I even put the time. I say from 7 to 9 a.m. or from 6 to 8 a.m. You have to, if you're not done, at least do this one milestone. At least do this
Yes.
one thing. Tomorrow you will add more, but
Yeah.
don't do, you can't finish it today. Just
Yeah.
do it this little. If
Sometimes I
every
set
day you do
alarm.
one block, you would build the tower.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sometimes I set alarm on my phone. That way I do not
yes,
hyper focus on one thing and neglect the other.
exactly.
That way it tells me, oh, you've been doing this for 2 hours. Stop. It's
Mm-hmm.
time to do this. It's time to pick
Walk
your
around,
food.
stretch, do
Yeah.
something. Exactly.
Don't leave. Don't. So because we can easily, very easily, not out of conscious, prioritize one
Hmm.
thing and neglect another one. And then
Totally.
when that happens consistently, we will suffer because that
Hmm.
balance will not be there at all.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
for you, what unique challenges have you faced as a PhD candidate when you're balancing family and your career? What are those things unique for you?
So I talked about it a little bit at some point is normalizing being human. So I don't know how it happened that graduate school expects people to be at certain meetings at certain time of the day or happy hours or that for me doesn't make any sense. But there is an expectation that certain meetings are, you know, a certain time, like at 5 p.m. or at 7 p.m. I don't know, or at 6 p.m. where you have to meet with. So, and then there's another thing that okay, if you're going for conferences, you have to make sure that you have arranged for childcare because you cannot go. There's no childcare at the specific conference. Those are huge challenges that I am confident reduces the number, the diversity of researchers, especially in AI. If you have to think about the paper you're going to, the child care for the kid, the code, because in addition to writing the paper, you have
Have
to make
you
sure
in
the code works.
particular, have you in particular faced the childcare challenge?
Of course. I mean, it's it, there are. I had once I had a meeting with my with our dean, and the nanny didn't show up. What was I gonna do? I took my
Oh,
kid to the meeting, and the
yep.
baby started crying. And the baby started crying there, like, and then you know,
It's
nobody had thought that a stroller could be. There was stairs everywhere. I was like, why? And I was there with the stroller, and then one thing that really struck me was that the dean's secretary was a mom. She took the kid to her office, made her sleep while I finished my meeting. It was like a conference
oh,
of graduate students and stuff. That's why I say we have to
awesome.
normalize being human.
Awesome.
I was there. There was no way I could bring my kid to school for a meeting, but at that specific time, I needed to have that meeting with
Hmm.
the dean, and my baby wasn't going to, so I took my baby with me. The the the, the staff had her office very cozy, very well, with air
Thank you.
conditioning and everything,
Thank God.
and she understood that mommy has to do this at this point. And then she took and then she made sure that I have that meeting,
Thank God.
and then the baby was taken care of.
See,
That was a
there are
yeah,
so many nice people around, people who
exactly,
understand. And sometimes, if you don't meet them, you will be challenged. Sometimes, if you don't ask for help, you will not get it. And
exactly.
another person could have just canceled the meeting and wait till the next year
Could
to have.
have.
I know how those things don't come easily.
Yeah,
When your spot is passed, okay, you will be begging for the next one for over 6 months.
exactly.
And glad you did that, and kudos to
Yeah.
the secretary who understood, because another
Hmm.
person would just have been What is wrong with her? Why is she bringing
Mm,
children here? Some people do not
exactly.
understand the struggle.
And I was asked that question, why would you bring a child to such an important meeting? Because it wasn't just a one-on-one meeting. It was going to be like a round table of stuff. And I was like, duh, I'm a mom.
Yeah,
What would you? And then things didn't work out the way I expected. Was I going to leave my child at home alone, or was I not going to come to the meeting? And there's also a lot of stereotype that generally happen where sometimes you just balancing life and it's just complicated. I remember once I had a good thing going. I finally landed that internship that I've always wanted to have with this big company. It was an interview. And then somebody turned around and asked me, "You were so happy about that position. Where are you gonna leave your kids to go for that internship?" So for them it was just like, you can't do this because you have kids.
right,
But and which doesn't make any sense. You can
right.
do it.
And there are
And what
interviews
ended up
that, yeah,
happening,
there are interviews that they will ask you, are you married? Do you have children? How old are your children? And it feels like, is that a measure for my qualification to do what I want to do? Because
that has nothing
is
to do with my performance.
is that judging already? But like you said, there
Mm,
are stereotypes, and
mm,
it is it is not easy. That is where we have to come in and define what is balance to us. Balance may mean
mm,
something to you and something else to me. And sometimes, like
mhm,
I said before, the expectation of PhD students having
mm.
meetings at
Exactly.
certain times. Sometimes it's we could have those meetings if we were still 18 and just being students. But by the
Exactly.
time you get to PhD, you have other life things happening, right?
Exactly.
That
Mm-hmm.
now you're playing that role, and you have to really, really define what is balanced to you. And it comes sometimes with what can you prioritize, what can you not prioritize. Can you
Mm-hmm.
your feel, can you share a specific time where you felt overwhelmed and how you navigated through that?
Yeah, there are so many. So, um, I was at my second internship. I had gone for internship with my two toddlers, and I was pregnant with my third. Give me a moment, my baby's back.
Guys, that is life. Things happen. We have to share our time. We have to still do our passion. We have to do work, and we have to give 100% of what we want to do. That is life. How do we find that balance? Balance for you may mean something else, and it may mean something else for me. We have the stresses that coming. We have to manage our mental health. We have to integrate certain things as we go, family, mental health, career, and we have to not judge. As we are building that stamina and getting there, and as we are getting those support, and we are prioritizing again quality over quantity, let us not judge. Let us not judge. Imposter syndrome will come, rejection of papers and funding uncertainty and all those, isolation in our niche. Let us not judge. Let us always, always be there, set those boundaries, and seek institutional support if we can, seek community support as well. But let us always remember to encourage the other person who may not have the support that we have. Let us always remember to provide that capability to say, it is okay if I can do it. I can support you through my own journey on how to do it. Is it easy? No. Can it be done? Absolutely. Find where your balance is and try to navigate it accordingly so that you're not prioritizing one thing over the other, and you're not stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out. Because when that happened, you will not be able at all to prioritize anything. Again, thank you. I'm seeing all the comments. It's time we have to close. Let me bring Mikel back for our closing remark. Life is just lifing. That is the truth. We are not going to hide it. Life is lifing. That she's a mother,
Mhm.
she's a career woman, she's a researcher, and all those things come with unique challenges. Your challenge
Exactly.
may be different from mine at different points in times or at the same point in time. But if we are
Mm.
able to create the balance, creating it
We
is
can
one,
make it work.
sustaining it is another one. Like you say, make it work. That balance should not be there today and not there tomorrow. Let's incorporate it and integrate it in our lifestyle. Once your balance is your lifestyle, you can save your mental health. And again, what
Mm.
is your health without your mental health? Closing, Mikel, for you, are
Yes.
there any books, apps, or resources that have been game changers for you to maintain balance that you can share with our audience?
Yes. So I believe I talked about it at the beginning of the talk is that I listen to a lot of motivational talks.
Yeah.
So I try to collect. So what the one thing that I collect are these very inspirational quotes that every morning I read one and I share on my WhatsApp group. Well, on the WhatsApp status, there's
Right.
always one thing that moves me every in the
It's
in
good.
the yeah, and the for me, I would say TED Talks. You know the kind of TED Talk you want to listen to. I
Yes.
listen to those that are motivational, especially maybe those that are from the tech space. How do I make sure, like exactly the title of this, how do I make sure I balance my mental health and research? You try to, and then yeah, and then that's mostly I what has helped me.
Mhm.
And then for me too is going outdoors. Outdoors, I play tennis. I try to get sport or I try to go out and then, by the nature and then that
Moving, moving.
too keeps me moving, keeps me out of my head and keeps me out of the big deadline that I have and everything. I don't take that for granted. And it's very important to know when to take a break, when to
Yeah.
step away, when to zoom
Boundaries.
out in order to be a lot more productive. And I don't take that for granted. And I hope your audience or for those who are struggling with that, those who are struggling with imposter syndrome, those who are struggling with scheduling, those who are struggling with maintaining balance, those who are struggling with consistency, those who are struggling with performance, efficacy, just learn to zoom out for a moment
Yeah.
to see better, to
Go
see better and be
take
motivated.
some time or go and sharpen your machete and come back.
Exactly. Go
I
sharpen
love
it and
that you
then come
shared
back.
that. I really love that you shared that, because I
Mhm.
hope you'll be part of our podcast again. Don't be a stranger.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for your
Yes.
insights. It is not
Thank you.
easy being all these roles and being wonderful at them, being very insightful at them,
Mhm.
and, and still stay yourself, still ground yourself. Because
Yeah.
before you are a mom, before you are a researcher, before you are a wife, you are Mikel. And if Mikel is
Yes.
not there for her, all those other roles will fall apart. And that is an integral
Exactly.
part of what we try to push, because we give out so much and we are not able to stay our grounds on who we are. We are not able to say, okay, this is me first. If I am strong, then I can strengthen the other one. Balancing it,
Exactly.
career, or balancing life, or just balancing obligations in general, be it work, professional, family, and balancing your mental health, it needs, can be challenging, but it is achievable. It is
Mhm.
achievable. Let us learn from people like Mikel. Let us learn from others who are doing it.
Yeah.
It is achievable. It will not just be a wishing thing that you wish that it is achievable. It requires intentional planning, open communication, and being able to leverage your resources. Yes, there are resources, community, institutional, professional, being able to leverage them. When you can do that and you prioritize your self care and you maintain a good perspective, you sustain that perspective, then you can lead to a fulfilled, balanced life, meaning that
Mm.
contribute not only to yourself, but whatever you want to contribute to. So, Mikel,
Yeah,
thank you so
of
much.
course.
You
Thank you so much for having me.
being a mom, but you still found time to talk about it. So thank you
Because
immensely.
it's an important topic, and I think and I think many people don't talk about it. There's a little stigma on mental health, and but I think it is something that is very, very important, because if your mental health, if you are not good mentally, whatever you do, you would not feel good, you would not look good. So you have to be sane and safe in there to glow outdoor, to glow out outside.
Absolutely. If it is not inside, if it is not well inside, it will portray on wellness outside. And I always
Exactly.
say, what is our health without our mental health? Mental health
Exactly.
is a journey. Let us take the wheels and ride well together. Thank you all for watching, and we'll come back again. Until then, see you next time. Bye bye.